Following on from my post that I put up last night in relation to trying to find out a little bit more about the Islamic faith specifically, and this came about really from something somebody said to me that really caused me a great deal of concern, and it was around the Prophet Muhammad having a relationship or a marriage with a 6-year-old girl. I'm not against any colour, I'm not against any creed, any religion, any sexuality. You should be free to be who you want and express yourself as you so wish in this society. What I'm against is fascism, oppression, totalitarianism. They're the things that I'm against. Now, I just want to make a quick point because I don't think people quite understand this. If you criticise a faith or a religion simply because you feel that something within that faith or that religion doesn't resonate within you, that does not make you a racist. If I don't like something that a Jewish person does based on a book they've read, and I criticise them, that doesn't make me anti-Semitic. If I don't like the fact that Muhammad, the Islamic prophet, had sex with a child of 6 years of age, that doesn't make me Islamophobic. Any human being with a moral compass would know that it is not okay to have sexual intercourse with a 6-year-old. So I simply asked the question. I basically said, is this true? And if it is, are you prepared to condemn this behaviour? Now, every single person I've asked this question to has not been prepared to condemn the actions of the Prophet Muhammad. So that only leaves a couple of possibilities. If you think it's okay for the Prophet Muhammad to have sex with a child, then my question to you would be, what are your views on child abuse? Because if you can't condemn the Prophet Muhammad for having sex with a child, how can you see sex with a child as wrong? It's either wrong or it isn't. If I am against the IRA bombing people in Ireland, that doesn't make me anti-Christian. It makes me a human being who is against evil, atrocious acts. And I don't understand why people can't see that. Organisations at the moment like Antifa, who are standing against supposed fascists and racists by trying to silence them, is in itself fascist behaviour. Marching down a street, rioting, smashing up people's businesses, smashing up people's homes, that's no different from the EDL. I don't understand how these people are taking the moral high ground. And then coming back to the point that I was making, how can me making a comment about the rape of a child be Islamophobic? I really don't understand it. If somebody can comment on this video and explain to me how that's Islamophobic, or criticising any religion for that matter is racist, then please do. Because in my opinion, the colour of your skin, whatever you wear, anything, what sexuality you are, has absolutely nothing to do with it. And I think that society is really starting to lose its sense of logic and its moral compass. You can't silence people simply because they have a different opinion to you. You can't start slagging people off and offending people and being personal because they have a different opinion to you. It isn't right. It's unethical. I don't understand why people can't see this, because I'm trying to raise awareness at the moment through my Facebook page to try and help other people who I feel, in my opinion, are sort of, have a lack of understanding as, in terms of what fascism is and what totalitarianism is. The Nazis were criticised for what they did purely because their philosophy was to remove and silence certain people or certain groups that stood against them. There are lots of different people within Islam that represent different races. There are white Muslims, there are black Muslims, there are Asian Muslims, there are probably even Chinese Muslims, although I don't actually know any. So you can't say because you ask a question about Muhammad, you're racist, because you're not. Just because you say it doesn't mean it's true. The truth is the truth is the truth. Donald Trump's a fascist and Donald Trump's a racist and the Western world needs to come down. I don't believe for 1 minute that Trump is a racist or a homophobe. He has black, Asian, gay people working for him. But secondly, and so the main point that I'm trying to make here is Antifa stand against these things and riot in the streets because they're against the opposition and try to silence anyone by anyone who asks questions about Muslims or asks questions about Christians or asks questions about Jews and says, you're a racist, and then starts kicking off and causing absolute chaos in the streets like what's going on in France at the moment. But you've got to ask yourselves the question, who are the real fascists in this situation? Who are the real fascists? Fascism, as I've said, and totalitarianism is basically silencing people or trying to oust people who are the opposition. That's what fascism is. And it's my opinion that right now in countries like Great Britain, Europe, where you're having this mass immigration, of different faiths, it might be predominantly Muslim, but there are probably other faiths. I think what's clear to me is that we've got a problem. We've got a problem because culturally, the beliefs of these different faiths and the people who are coming from these different nations and mixing in one place, whether it be Germany, whether it be France, whether it be England, the problem we've got is these people have very different ideas on how society should be run and how the law in those societies should be implemented. For example, many Muslims, many Muslims, 50% of the Muslims that I know who are good friends of mine believe very, very passionately that Sharia law should be enforced in this country. Now, on the other hand, you've got organisations many of whom are racists and should be condemned, from organisations such as the EDL, are completely against Sharia law and completely against the idea of Muslims taking over Britain. So what's happening is you're having these many different sides, this division within society erupting very, very quickly, all based on the fact that people from different cultures and different faiths have different views on different things. And anyone who tells me that multiculturalism, when introduced this quickly, works, in my opinion, is completely wrong. Because that's why we've got terrorism. That's why we've got people in fear of speaking out. A good example I always use is, a term you hear about Christians all the time is, he's a Bible basher, he's a Bible basher. But you see, you've got to think about it this way. When somebody calls someone a Bible basher, which when I was in school used to happen all the time, anyone who went to church, Bible basher. Anyone who mentioned Jesus, Bible basher. Jesus used to be ridiculed. Even the idea of someone with a beard and long hair, they'd be referred to as Jesus. At the end of the day, those people weren't called racists. Those people weren't called fascists. Those people weren't condemned and arrested and locked up. So why is it different when you have the likes of somebody come out in public and say something about the Islamic faith? They're labelled a racist. They're labelled an Islamophobe. Why is it when somebody comes out and speaks against Israel, a Zionist state that has essentially taken Palestinian land that didn't belong to them. It was given to them, it was given to the Zionists by Winston Churchill after World War II. Why is it if you criticise Zionists for invading other people's land, you're called an anti-Semite? It's got nothing to do with being Jewish. It's to do with stealing land and building illegal settlements. The two things are mutually exclusive. It is separate issues. People are blurring the lines over problems within society simply to make a point, and then small-minded bigots are getting on the back of it and joining organisations like Antifa and saying, we support this, we support immigration, we support this, when they don't even really know the issues they're fighting for. I think it's really important that people take a step back and actually look at what's going on in society, because right now we're heading towards a potential world war and things are not looking good. You really do have an issue in society. I've lived in an area within Leeds, in a place called Mayfield, that is right next to a town called Ravensthorpe, which is a predominantly Muslim town. Now, I used to go down to Ravensthorpe to get my hair cut. I used to go down there and have a shave. I had loads of Muslim friends, and I used to it used to take hours to wait to get your hair cut in this barber's because it was so busy. But everyone who went there was Muslim, and I was welcomed into that community, with open arms, to be honest with you. And we used to have a real laugh, and they were some of the nicest people that I've ever met, and I'm still friends with them now. Now, what I'm trying to say is, it isn't about the faith that you practice. It isn't about what question you ask, or whether you make a remark about a prophet, or whether you say this about Jesus, or whether you say this about Muhammad. It's about principles, and it's about the fact that as human beings in a democratic society, we should be allowed to make whatever point or ask whatever question we want. You should never feel fearful because you want to ask a question about a faith, or you want to ask a question about a religion. And I just don't understand why people are starting to, are starting to go down the path of actually agreeing with this sort of movement that, it's offensive to say that, it's offensive to say this. Yeah, I'm all for, for protecting people and ensuring that people don't say things, that offend others. But at the same time, you've got to apply some sense of logic to it and think, well, actually, do you know what? We live in a society of freedom of speech. But at the same time, you can't say to people, well, we live in a world of free speech, but you can't say that. It's either free speech or it's not free speech. Why can people not use their minds? Why is it hard to understand? If people don't stand up for what is right sooner rather than later, in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time, your kids are going to be growing up in a world where they can't speak their mind, where they can't speak out against evil, where if something bad happens that they don't agree with, they're going to be criticised and demonised and potentially thrown in jail because they've said the wrong thing. That isn't a world that I want to create. That's not a world that I want to live in, and it's certainly not a world that I think kids should grow up in. So I think it's time that people actually take a step back, and when someone asks a question, or if someone says something that you don't agree with, even if someone says something that is racist, when someone says something that is offensive, the reaction should not be one of haste, and it shouldn't be one of violence, to condemn and to be angry about it and say, you can't say that, you can't say that. Violence just breeds violence. The only way to solve this problem is for everyone to remain peaceful, for everyone to, react to things in a different way. If someone says something that you don't agree with, or someone says something that is racist, just think, you know what, they're not at a point in their life, in their journey, to be able to understand truth. So if they want to have that opinion, then I'll advise them that I think they're wrong. But we shouldn't be marching about these issues in a violent way and protesting in a violent way and condemning people who speak out. It just shouldn't be happening. So I'm sorry to have gone on. I just thought, I just felt really passionate about making this video just so that people could see what my opinion actually was and maybe, inspire people to actually come out and offer me their opinion, and, together we can have a discussion about it. And the more people who do have discussions like this, the more people who do speak openly and honestly, as long as it's based on a solid moral compass and a good code of ethics, there's no reason why anyone or any society or any group or any ethnic minority within the society should feel neglected or should feel vulnerable. Because if everyone just opens up and thinks, right, actually, do you know what? I don't like that particular faith because I've heard this or because I've had this perception. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to engage with them and I'm going to ask the questions. Now, when you ask them questions, if you don't like the answers and you don't like that particular faith because actually you find out that, you were right and it's not something you agree with and it's not something you like, then that's absolutely fine. But that's your opinion. And then that opinion, belongs to you, but then shouldn't be promoted back to the people who gave you the answers in a negative way. In other words, if someone gives you the answers that you wanted to hear, which enforces your negative beliefs in that faith, don't then act upon it and start to silence them, because then you become the totalitarian, you become the fascist, and you become the evil that you are supposedly trying to stand against. So I just wanted to make this point, and I hope I've clarified what my comments actually were, and hopefully, more people will come out and speak openly and honestly. So post your comments, let me know what you think. Either hit like, love, angry face, whatever your opinion is, it is welcome. I just want to have a nice, open, honest discussion and try and understand what people's views are, and then maybe together, collaboratively, we can actually have a decent discussion and maybe start to try and understand each other, respect each other, and as a result, live together quite happily. If I don't see you for a week, I'll see you for a window.